Hello there and welcome to ADcraft. In today's episode we have a redstone build for you with this 3x8 fully tileable shulker box unloading system that returns the empty shulker boxes to you individually and also allows you to dispense the items in a water stream ready to go into a storage system. So without any further ado, let's get on with the build. So to demonstrate this device, we have here a shulker box that's got 16 blocks of diamond in at the moment. So if we break that and come up here, what we will do is we will place that there, and it immediately starts to dispense the blocks down out the bottom. So this can go into a water stream, and once it's done that, it will then put the empty shulker box here in our inventory. So just to check, there's the full 16 blocks. So the blocks that you'll need for the build are 3 dispensers, 5 hoppers, 2 chests, 5 comparators, 5 repeaters, 1 redstone torch, 4 redstone dust, 11 observers, 6 note blocks, 3 sticky pistons, 17 or more structural blocks, and a half slab. So this unit, as mentioned, is 3x8. However, if you wanted, you can remove this additional circuit. This is just for you to put empty items from your inventory into, and then it will dispense them into the same water stream for you at the bottom. However, I'll build it in the 2 separate circuits. So the first one that we're going to build is the main shulker box unloader. And to do that, you'll place 2 blocks and then come up a 3rd block. Then here we're going to place a dispenser that's facing out. We don't need those bottom blocks anymore. Then come up an additional block so that you can place a chest. Now this is where your shulker boxes are going to be returned to, and then place a downward facing hopper and then a hopper facing into that chest. So on the back of this block, we're going to be placing a block and then come up a block. We don't need that one anymore. And then we're going to be placing a comparator that's going to be reading the output from the shulker box and feeding it into this block here. We're then going to place a redstone torch on the back of the block, and that is going to be switched off when there is a signal coming into the block itself. Then on the back of this, we are going to place a dispenser facing outwards, so with the little smiley face facing towards the back of the machine. And then we're also going to be placing a hopper that is facing into that dispenser. Now that creates a falling edge monostable circuit, so that will power as soon as the output has stopped coming from that shulker box. Inside here, we are going to be placing any item. It doesn't matter what the item is, but in this case, we're going to be using a diamond block. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to come up a couple of blocks from here. And what we're going to do at this level, so just beneath, we're going to be reading the signal out of this hopper. And then we can take away these bottom blocks. Now that again will be the start of the signal. We're going to feed this into a note block on the side here, sorry, don't need that one. And then what we're going to do is we're going to split the signal with observers 2 ways. So the first one, we're going to be placing observers that go upwards. So let's place a observer there, and then we're going to be doing the same the other way as well. So the observer signal is then going to be read from that note block, going in the 2 different directions. Now on top of that, we're going to be placing another note block, because that's the best way to change the direction. And then we're going to be placing another note block here. We'll build up the bottom part of the circuit first and then go to the top. So what we're going to do is come up with a block and then come up with another block. We don't need that now. And then we're going to come out 3 further blocks here, and what this is going to do is allow us to take the output from this with a repeater facing away from the note block, and what we're going to do is create a comparator decay clock. So this signal is going to give us a single tick, and what we want to do is actually change that signal itself and extend it. So we'll put the redstone dust here, and that has created the next section. And what we're going to do is come out 1 further block, add on a repeater, and we'll go through the timings for these repeaters in a second. And then the final thing on this bottom part of the circuit we're going to place is another note block. Now with any of these note blocks, of course you can put a block above them and it'll stop the sound. What we're going to do with this is put that onto a tick and that onto a tick. Now what this circuit at the bottom is doing is taking the output as soon as the shulker box is empty, passing it round here, extending the signal and locking this hopper. So that will make sure that it is dropping into the chest itself rather than actually dropping down into the dispenser. Up here what we're going to do is we're going to take the signal from this note block, and remembering to hold shift of course, we're going to pull that signal out. Now on top of this hopper again we're going to place a block so that we can put a repeater, and then from that repeater we're going to place a note block, and then an observer, and then another note block, and then from that we need to bring this block out so we can just have something to place on, and then a final repeater here. And then what this is going to be is the point where we have our sticky piston, and from that sticky piston what we want to do is be placing that sticky piston down. So if we can just get this right first time, perfect. And with that again we will need an additional half slab. This is what's going to break the shulker box once it's done. So we need to add a tick here of delay so that this doesn't spit out its block, and we're also going to add a tick of delay here. And what this will then do is ensure that once that circuit is still locked and that hopper is still locked, that the signal will pass through here and will break the shulker box, which will then turn up going into the side. Now the final bit that we're going to do on this part of the build is where we have this block that will be powered. As soon as there is an item in the shulker box, then we want to start taking this signal, and what we'll need to do is actually place a couple of these just to get us in the right position, because what we want to do is have an observer with the face looking down, and then with this actually it's probably easiest just to break this block, and then have an observer with the face up in order for us to actually clean up after ourselves, in order for us to create an observer clock when the system is running, so that the observer itself, when you face two observers into each other, I'll just demonstrate here for anybody who didn't know, then you will, if you can face them in there, you will see that there is a constant ticking from that, and that's what we're going to be using to power the dispenser. So finally we place another observer here, so the signal from this observer that was ticking like that is going to be red and powered into this block. So each time that flash was happening, this block's going to be powered, and each time that block is powered, then it's going to be pumping out an item here. So if we just get our box again, just to demonstrate how this works, go to the right thing, place that there, you can see it starts pumping out those items. And then as soon as you've done that, I didn't put enough delay on here, then what you have is the box going into the right place. So before we go on to the next extra part of the build, we'll just go through the timings. So this one we want to be just a regular observer. This one we need to add 1 tick of delay so it doesn't spit the block out. Here we don't want any delay at all, and here we want a single tick of delay. Now in order to build the optional extra bit that makes it tileable for the chest, for the items, what we're going to do is we're going to start by placing a dispenser here, and then on top of that we're going to get a couple of hoppers and place them down into each other, What we're going to do is then place a chest on top of that. That's where the items are going to go. Next to that, we're going to put a block so that we can have a comparator. Again, reading when there are items in that chest itself. And next to that, we're going to place a block that's going to get powered. Now this is where it differs slightly. So we're going to place a block underneath here, and we're going to put a repeater on this block and set that to 2 ticks. That's to make sure that all of the items have passed right the way through into the dispenser, so that nothing's left in this hopper chain whilst the process is running. And what we're then going to do is take a sticky piston facing down, and we're going to do the same that we did before with an observer. Let's just put one there so we've got something to place it into. And then we again want an upwards facing observer here, so let's just pop one there and fill the gap in. And now all we're going to do is actually take this observer signal and run that into the back here, and that can be done using observers. And you run those observers into a block, and basically that observer, that creates your circuit there. And what you can do there is, if we just take these 16 items, it'll then dispense them all. Let's just clear the space, and we'll see that we've got 16 items coming out the bottom as well. When the build's finished, you can obviously decorate it however would suit your base. I've just done this with some smooth quartz. In here we have the chest that would hold the shulker boxes, and then obviously this is the chest that you just put the items through your inventory, and this is where you'd put your shulkers, so you can just, when you come back from a mining trip or wherever, just stick the things in here and empty them, and then collect the empty shulker boxes ready to go again. And then I've just put a water stream in here to demonstrate how you could have that dispensing straight into a water stream that could then go into a sorting system. And I will be doing a future video on sorting systems, so do look out for that. And then the very last thing is, very occasionally, if there's some lag on the server for some reason, or some lag in your world, then one item might be left in the right hand of these 2 dispensers. The way to avoid that from happening is you can actually shift this whole piston dealio across to the right one, and you add an additional repeater coming out of this block into that. That just adds an element of delay, which means that this clock runs a little bit longer and allows you to make sure there's no items that are actually lost in the process of this. So thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed the video, please do make sure you leave a like and a comment. It really does help the channel. And make sure that you do, above all, subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. So thanks for watching, and see you next time on ADcraft.